Series that I'm excited about. I love starting the year with our stewardship series. This is a series that most of you would wish, because of the power of what we're going to teach, you're going to wish your grandparents adopted it, adapted it, and applied it to your parents' life 40, 50 years ago. And you're going to wish that you had, because it would still be bearing fruit in your life today, had your grandparents adopted what we're going to talk about in these next 4 weeks 50 years ago, had they done that. But it's also a series that'd be very easy for you to say, nah, I don't need that. I'm going to check out of this one. Nah, this one doesn't apply to me. I'm just going to keep Jesus in his Sunday box and keep him out of the other boxes in my life. And I would encourage you not to do that. I would encourage you to resist that temptation and to be here for all 4 weeks. So the 4 things we're going to talk about in this series are on the screen. I'm going to ask you to say them out loud with me. Are we ready? First one's on the left. Here we go. Less is more. Stress is bad. Giving is good. And tomorrow matters. One more time. Less is more. Stress is bad, giving is good, and tomorrow matters. And I'm glad I have it about memorized, because that font is too small on the back screen for me to read. So we're going to get right to it. If you're one of the ushers helping us out today, we're ready for bulletins this morning. If you didn't get a bulletin when you came in, lift your hand. We'll make sure that you get one. We got one hand up in the booth. You're hysterical, Nathaniel. Thanks. Less is more. Less is more. Now, I don't know about you, but I was programmed as a kid that less was not more. More was more. More was more. What's better as a kid, 1 cookie or 2 cookies? You don't need a math major to know that one. 2 cookies is always better than 1 cookie. $1 or $2? What would you rather have in the card you got for your birthday when your aunt came over? 1 million would be great. Yes, but I was raised in the 70s, Tree, and so we got $1, or maybe we got a $2 bill, because $2 bills were brand new in the 70s. 1 cookie is good. But there was one Christmas I remember. We hosted the evening Christmas gathering, which meant all my mom's aunts and uncles, they all came over, and the family I grew up in, they played cards like crazy, and so I grew up playing gin and pinochle and 66 and that kind of stuff, and at that point, all the adults didn't want the 13-year-old to play, and so I was sitting over by where my parents had a little bar, and they had these virgin strawberry daiquiris, and they were big, and one was good. So you know what? If I thought one was good, 2 would be better. 2 was not better. 2 was not better. So I think I went to 2, maybe 3. And I remember that Christmas vividly, very vividly. Yeah, 1 was good, 2 was not better, because sometimes less is more. We're only going to have 2 scriptures for you today. They're actually both on your bulletins. But last week we had about 40, so if you want a lot of scripture in the message, go listen to last week's message. But today, we got 2. Here's the first one. Better is 1 handful with tranquility or peace, whatever word you want to use, than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing the wind. Better is 1 handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. When is 1 handful better? Well, with 1 handful, I've got another hand free. I can help somebody up. I can offer somebody comfort. I've got space in my life for God to guide my life. But with both hands full, I can't even open a door. My wife came up with this statement a while back. Not every abundance is a blessing, and not every lack is a curse. Not every abundance is a blessing, and not every lack is a curse. Sometimes less is more. Less of what doesn't matter, so we're going to have more of what actually does matter. I threw something out on social media this past week trying to get some input, and I just asked, what's most important? What's most important? And I left it broad on purpose. And so there are answers all over the place: God, family, relationships, making good decisions. You know what nobody said? The most important thing are the new granite countertops I got 2 years ago. Nobody said that. Or the concrete countertops, or whatever the cool countertops are to have in your house now. I don't know what those would be. No one said, what's most important is how much money I got in the bank. What's most important is that bestest Christmas gift I got this past year, or the year before, or the year before that. You see, when we define what matters most, when we really take time to think it through and what matters most, we find that we mostly chase what doesn't matter much. Is it true in your life? It's true in my life. When I go ahead and define what matters most to me? This matters most, this matters most, this matters most, but I find I'm spending my time chasing what maybe doesn't matter that much. I've heard it phrased this way before. Who are you living for? Are you living for the people that are going to be sitting in the first 3 rows of your funeral? Or those that are going to come at the most opportune time to your visitation so they can be there as little time as possible? Who are you living for? Because some people aren't going to bother showing up for your funeral. Let's make sure we're not prioritizing them in our life. I mean, what do I have now that doesn't satisfy like it promised? Do you remember when you got I don't know about you, I was not a good student, but I loved the beginning of school year because I got brand new school stuff and brand new crayons that I haven't broken yet. It was awesome. I loved it. but it didn't satisfy because after 2 weeks I had broken some of them and probably eaten a quarter of them and gnawed on them or something. How much toil and chase did it involve? You remember the first smartphone you got? Because some of you aren't smartphone people, and that's fine. You can flip it open and still use it. It works. But you remember the first one? I remember the first one that I got. I'm trying to remember which one was. I had a Trio. Oh my goodness. It was a Trio, Palm Trio. Sat on the hip pocket, had a full keyboard on it, meaning it had all those little buttons on that. And man, it was so awesome. And I remember getting it. We had it in Wichita. First night, I put it beside the bed, just like it's a brand new baby. And it's like so awesome. In the middle of the night, I'm waking up and it's blinking at the screen like a UFO. It's like, this is not satisfying like I thought it was supposed to. And now you can probably buy those things for about $3. About $3 you can probably get one. And it doesn't satisfy. How much toil and chase did it involve? Oh man, I increased my cell phone bill $15 a month at that point, just so I could have this that I thought would satisfy. Stuff doesn't satisfy. Ask yourself this question. It's the main question we'll be asking today. Am I mostly chasing what matters most? Am I mostly chasing what matters most? That's what I want to be chasing. And what would change if I did? What would change in my life if I started chasing what matters most and not what I'm mostly chasing? What does Jesus want me to chase? What did he chase? And am I willing to apply that to my life? Because if I'm going to start chasing what mostly matters most, I'm probably going to have to re-angle or re-chase some direction. Someone that I've seen do that tremendously in the past, I don't know, is it 5 or 6, maybe 7 years, is Ryan Leishan. This is Ryan's last Sunday with us. He's graduated. He's got a job. He's flying out to, where are you going again, Ryan? D.C.? Florida, going to Florida. But he has totally started chasing something totally different. How long ago was it, Ryan? 5 years, 6? Do you know? About 7 years? He's a different person now. Why is he a different person? He's aimed in a different direction. So a couple of ways that we can go ahead and mostly start chasing what matters most. Number one, cut back. The house we live over in South College off of Quincy. Our house was built in 1940. And so that means it settles like crazy. And we got cracks in the wall here and there that we try and hide when company comes over. But it also means that we have a house that was built in 1940, which means we have tiny bathrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, tiny, no master bedroom, and we have 1940s closets. Yeah. How many of you lived in an old house before? They don't have big closets. The house we looked at before we bought this one was over on Euclid, and I opened one of the closets, and you could not have gotten a hanger in it and closed the door. It was that shallow. Because they didn't build houses with big closets, because who had enough clothes to fill up the entire closet? And new houses today, the average closet is 8 laps to a mile around the closet. But you still need more space in the closet, so you have a shed, and you have a garage, and you have a storage unit, and you're paying other people to store stuff you don't use or you don't need. And we still look in the mirror and go, I got nothing to wear. Jesus spoke very plainly and clearly about the quality of life and the quantity of possessions. The quality of life and the quantity of possessions. Here's what Jesus said. All right, let me set the context. He was out teaching, and someone said, hey, teacher, tell my brother to give me my inheritance now. And Jesus said, yo, dude. He didn't say that, but he said, wait, hey, I'm not the judge or arbiter between you guys on this, but watch out. Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Read that bold part with me one more time. Here we go. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. One more. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. Don't walk out of here and say, Pastor Mark says possessions are bad. Jesus didn't say that. And we know that's true. We know that our life does not consist in the abundance of our possessions. We know that's true in our mind, but do we know that's true in our closet? Do we know that's true in our sheds, in our bookshelves, in our garages, in our storage units? Every appetite that you have has a one-word vocabulary. More. And it never says please. More. Hey, this is pretty cool. More, smaller, faster, more. Every appetite says that. Sometimes we just have to cut back because less is more. Less is more. Less of what doesn't matter so you can have more of what does. Less stuff so you have space for more friends. Less possessions so you have space for more experiences. Question to ask yourself, is consumption and consumerism corrupting my heart? Sure did mine. Still does. It's a constant battle. Is consumption and consumerism corrupting my heart? What do I need to remove from my wish list? I've got highly ninja skills at adding things to my Amazon wish list. I can almost do it telepathically. But maybe it's time to go through the wish list and remove some stuff from the wish list instead of just add some stuff. Less is more. Number one, cut back. Number two, clear out. Clear out. What would happen to your life if you cleared some things out? I know those two words don't seem to go together, but what would happen to your life if you cleared some things out? To your life, if you cleared some things out? Yes, your life. What would change? Because clearing out doesn't just clear out your space. It clears out your mind, your heart, your soul. No one ever says, man, I need a break. I'm going to go back into the inventory space at Walmart. I'm going to go to the shoe department at Walmart. They don't do that. They say, I need to go find some space. I need to get to the country. I need to get to a place where I can go fishing or hunting. Even if I'm not going to fish and hunt, I'm just going to sit out there and use it as a spouse avoidance zone. And I'm just going to sit out there in the cold just so I can be with my thoughts. Because my heart gets uncluttered. My soul gets uncluttered. Look at the places that we pay a lot of money to go to. Look at the places that are on everyone's bucket list to visit. Some of them are hyper crazy. New York City, Hong Kong. But most of them are, there's nothing there. Hawaii. When we had a chance to go to Hawaii, we were blown away. At 8 o'clock, we decided, let's go get something to eat. Most every place was closed. Hang loose, man, no big deal. Find something else to eat. McDonald's was open. McDonald's was open. Why do we love to go to places that are decluttered, or at least seem decluttered? The hotels that you go to. The foyer is really nice and fancy and decluttered. There's nothing there that's not supposed to be there. That's how we try and make the church. So that when you come in, you can go, decluttered. Doesn't mean we don't have clutter. Doesn't mean that, not at all. I'm just not going to show you where it is right now. Restaurants that we go to. What would you think if you walked into a restaurant? Yeah, I've never been here before. And it was cluttered all over the place. You know, they had a box of delivery there with half the onions were out of it, half of them were still in the box, and over here was some trash that just hadn't, you know, it was sealed up and everything. It was sanitary, but it hadn't been taken out to the back door. There's a reason they have a back door at restaurants. Yeah, we'd feel uneasy about that. But when we walk into a place that is decluttered, that has been cleared out, whether it's a hotel, a church, or a restaurant, a house, or a hunting place that we go, what do we feel? We feel peace. We feel tranquility. Because better is just one handful with tranquility. It's better. It's better than having both hands full. And you're filled with toil in your life and you're chasing after the wind, which is a paraphrase for you're never going to catch it anyway. Never going to catch it. It's better to have more space in the room and more room in your soul. It's better to have less stuff in my eyesight and less drag on my heart. Maybe in your childhood was similar somewhat to mine, although I didn't grow up poor, I don't think by any means, but maybe you didn't grow up with much. And now you have much. Matter of fact, now you have too much. And you go, well, I might need this someday. I need this for my life. And so we don't part with it. We don't clear it out. This thing reminds me of something really wonderful, and so it's sentimental in my life, and we clear it out and we hold on to it. So the thought to consider, though, is Jesus still said, a man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. But this was important to me, and I'm sentimental. If you go to my office, you'll see things on my bookshelf that are totally sentimental. They have no other meaning whatsoever. They're sentimental. I'm not saying you shouldn't have sentimental things, but I can't ignore what Jesus said. Our life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. We end up with decision fatigue. There's a reason Aldi is making a ton of money. If you want peanut butter, they got one kind. If you want detergent, they got one kind. Yeah, but I don't like theirs. Then you can go somewhere else and get theirs, no problem. But they're making a ton of money because they know the decision fatigue that we face when we stare into our closets and we don't know what to wear because we have too many choices. When we turn on the TV and we turn on Netflix as well as cable as well as over-the-air channels, and we can't, it's the most stressful time in my house. Hey, let's all watch a movie on Netflix. Okay, what movie? You know what we normally end up watching? Nothing. Or how about you get a special treat and you go up to Kansas City and you go to eat at Cheesecake Factory. But you're not just going for cheesecake. You're actually going to have a meal too, which is rare. But some people actually eat meals at Cheesecake Factory. And then you open up page 2 of the menu, and page 4, and page 6, and page 8, and page 10, and page 12. And I'm not being, am I exaggerating here, people? I am not. If you've been there, I am not. And then you go to page 14 of the menu. Decision fatigue. Decision fatigue. There's a clear-out technique. As I was studying for this message that I learned, there's a book about it. Some crazy lady wrote it, that Katie Mondo or something like that. about clearing things out. It's called thanking them and giving them away. It's called looking at your thing that you have and go, thank you, thing. You were wonderful. Thing, I so enjoyed you. I'm now going to set you free, thing, to go bless somebody else. Thank the book, send it away and clear it out. Thank the hoodie, send it away and clear it out. And I'm going to practice this each week this month. Less is more. I'm clearing out some of my books. Some of them are near and dear to me. Some of them I just have because I'll read that someday. Well, that was 4 years ago. Thank you, thing. They're sitting on the Welcome Center. Take anyone you want on the way out. Take anyone you want. And I'll put 25 more out next week. Thank you, thing. You were wonderful. I so enjoyed you, thing. Bye-bye. I'm going to set you free to bless someone else, to clear out. You know, those who don't have much, they don't have decision fatigue. You know what they have instead? Simplicity. Joy. Tranquility. Even if they don't have much to choose from. What about those who have much, like you, and have way more than you? More options than you could ever imagine. More power than you could ever imagine. Some of them get rid of decision fatigue by making easier decisions. Quote, you'll see I wear only gray or blue suits, Obama said. I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to make decisions about what I'm eating or wearing because I have too many other decisions to make, which makes the tan suit really stand out as awkward. And he got slammed on for wearing that. That was back in 2009. Someone else who's done this? Clicker's not very happy today. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. Think he's pretty efficient and effective? Well, wears a gray t-shirt. Where do you get such a stupid idea like that, wearing the same thing every day? I mean, how can you lead a growing company and wear the same thing every day? And I realize that may be more a male thing than a female thing. I get that. But the idea is clearing out. This past summer, my wife and I enjoyed a 1-month sabbatical. Thank you, Flag Church. And one of the things we did in that sabbatical, well, my goodness, was to have a garage sale. I hate garage sales. I hate going to them. Actually, I don't mind going to them, probably. But I hate holding them. They're a ton of work. So why'd you do that in your sabbatical? That was stupid. I don't know if it was stupid or not, but we sure felt that way Friday afternoon when it started raining on us. Yeah. But you know what felt so good? Clearing out. Because eliminating is incredibly freeing, and that's what we did. Eliminating is incredibly freeing, and none of that stuff went back into our house. Not one drop. Every bit of it left. You know how that felt that night when we were bone tired? What you say is, man, it feels like our house is breathing better. What's really breathing better? Our heart, our soul, our mind is breathing better because we cleared out some stuff. Because it's better. It's better to have one handful with tranquility than 2 handfuls with toil and chasing the wind. Lastly, payoff. Payoff. You know, I'm 50 years old now. I've been doing ministry and ministering to people for 25 years. And I've never heard someone say the best years of my life, Pastor, was when I was deep in debt. I've never had somebody say that. Pastor, our marriage was rough, but then we got a bigger loan to buy a bigger boat. And man, the financial pressure has just blossomed us to even closer to each other. I never had so much peace when my credit card debt was at its height. I really miss having a car payment, Pastor, because that brought me so much purpose in my life. No one's ever said that. Payoff. Financial stress wreaks havoc on tranquility. You don't have 1 handful of tranquility, and you don't have 2 hands full. You got 3 hands full. And then you realize, oh, wait, I don't have a third hand. It honors God to pay things off. And eliminating, including debt, is incredibly freeing. We're not saying stuff is bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't have some nice things. What I am going to say plainly and blatantly is this. The richest people in the world are not those who have the most, but those who need the least. The richest people in the world are not those who have the most, but those who need the least. You've been there probably yourself. If not, you know someone who has. Typical American person gets on the plane, pays $1,000 to go to the missions trip where they're over there for 10 days, and they go over to this godforsaken land like Haiti or Ivory Coast or wherever you've been, and did a mission trip 4 hours south of Tijuana one time, and you get there, and you're there because you're going to save the world. Woo, we're going to do this. And you get there, and you find out, they've got nothing. And then you start feeling guilty because of everything you have, and you realize they don't have Netflix. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have a light bulb. Literally. They don't have a light bulb. Not one. Because they don't have electricity. They don't have running water. They don't have water. They've got to walk down to the thing to pump out their 5-gallon bucket of water and bring it back. But what do they have? Tranquility, peace, simplicity, contentment. And then Sunday comes, because Sunday's going to come, and then you're going to go to church with all these pitiful, poor people, and you see them dancing around like fools, jumping up and down all over the place because they got joy. And you're going, I want me some of that. I want me some of that. I need some of that. And we make a decision when we get back that we're going to go ahead and act differently, because we realize that the richest people in the world are not those who have the most, but those who need the least. Listen, we've got one short life. And Jesus said a man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions. This is a guy, Jesus, that didn't have money to pay his taxes and frequently didn't know where he was going to spend the night because he didn't have a steady house that he was staying in. Better is one handful. Better is one handful of tranquility and children who love you than having 2 handfuls and children that barely know you. Better is one handful with peace and close friends than 1,000 acquaintances on Facebook. Better is one handful with peace and vacation memories than having stuff you're going to sell in the garage sale in 5 years. Better is having one handful with tranquility and a good marriage than having more stuff but barely knowing each other. Better is having one handful and the ability to make a difference in the lives of others than having 2 handfuls and being self-consumed instead of selfless. Better is one than 2 sometimes, because less is more. Stand with me, would you, this morning? The question we shared with you earlier, am I chasing, whoa, I lost my screen. Am I chasing what matters most? Thank you, Nathaniel. Am I chasing what matters most? John, who knew Jesus, personally said this. This is the testimony. God has given us eternal life, and this life is in his Son. He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son does not have life. What matters most? Do you know the Son? Do you know Christ? Not know about him, like you know about your team that's going to play today if you got an NFL team in the playoffs, but do you know him? Do you know him? That's what matters most. And until you get that piece of your life puzzle down, the rest of it's not going to make any sense. You're going to think, I got 2 handfuls, I should be happy now, but why don't I have peace and tranquility? Do you have the Son? He who has the Son has life. He who does not have the Son does not have life. Can I ask you to bow your heads and your hearts with me this morning? Father, I bless you and I thank you and I ask for your presence to continue to fill this room and to bring fruit from your word today. With no one looking around, I see heads bowed and eyes closed. If you need to make a choice to choose the Son of God today, to surrender to the Son of God, I want to give you that opportunity this morning. I'm going to pray a simple but clear prayer of commitment, salvation, and forgiveness. And if you already know the Son, then you know what happens when someone chooses the Son. You know what happens in their heart. You know what happens in their life. So I ask you to be praying with me on this. If you don't know the Son today, if you don't know Christ and you're not following him, today is an opportunity for you to reject him. Or it's an opportunity for you to receive him. But you can't be neutral. If you choose not to make a decision, you've still made a choice. If you want to choose Christ today, I encourage you to join with me in this prayer. Dear God, I thank you for loving me, and I ask for forgiveness of my sins. I put my faith in Jesus Christ today. I ask for forgiveness, and I confess my sins to him, and I believe that you raised your Son from the dead. I want him to come into my heart and my mind, and I surrender my life to him. I surrender my life to him. I confess you are my Lord, Jesus. With your heads bowed and your eyes still closed, if you're here this morning, that's the prayer that you prayed, and that's the decision you're making. You did not have the Son, and you just chose to receive the Son of God today. On the left side of the room, my right, I'm simply just going to ask you to lift your hand and look me in the eye. I know it's 8:30 in the morning on a cold day, and most of you here are already believers, but I'm not just going to leave it hanging. Is there anyone here on the left-hand side? I just chose Christ today, Pastor. I just chose Christ today. Anyone on the left-hand side? Moving to the right side. Anyone on the right side? I chose Christ today. I'm willing to let you know. I see your hand in the back. Thank you. You can put it down. Yes, he receives you like you receive him openly. Anyone else across the room? Father, I want to thank you for what you do, what you are doing, and that you are a perfect example for us of a life that is worth following, emulating, and we want your life to live in us. In Christ's name we pray. We bless you.